Okay, so as we do in each class, is we first take and just take a moment for each of you to say whatever it is you might want to say, questions you might have that might have come up for you, feedback, situation, anything like that that is up from this last week or beyond. So we'll just open the floor and do popcorn style. So if you want to have something to say, just unmute, speak. When you're complete, say I'm complete, and well, the space will be open for the next person. So anything that is up for any of you, it's up. It's up.
I would like to mention, I did send this to Sharon late last night, and maybe several of you are aware, but on my phone came up a little news report stating that the Supreme Court has approved that it's okay for anyone and everyone who wants to carry a gun in the country, out in public, as long as it's, concealed. What's the point of concealing it now if anyone can carry it? But I find it very disturbing and very upsetting. And that was approved, and I believe some court system in New York, if I understand the article correctly, tried to implement a law stating that the person would have to prove that there was a need for them to carry it specifically before they would allow it, and the Supreme Court declined it. So I'm not really sure what's going on, but it's just I found that upsetting. So I thought I'd want to bring that in today. I'm complete.
Okay. Yes, some disturbing things. Sharon, I can see your hands. And maybe Evie, if you, after Sharon.
I guess I want that I'm really glad to be here with you all, because it is grounding to have community, especially in crazy times. And Tara, the situation you mentioned makes no sense to me. The Roe v. Wade situation makes no sense. It just seems like things are spiraling faster and faster, more and more out of control. And so community is important yeah. And sometimes I get discouraged when I think that I should know what to do or how to react, or listen to other people's struggles with these situations. And yet what I've been advising people to do this week is to go for that good feeling. And where that comes up for me is when I know that I am truly supported in the unseen world, and they do have my back, and that things might get a little bit messier right now before they get clearer and better. If those are all judgments, those are all dualistic words, good, bad. And I believe that. So I guess, and I haven't really put that into words yet this week. So I guess that's just what I wanted to say. And it will develop, I'm sure, over the course of our time today together. So thank you for being here, and hang in there.
And my concern is the trend of slide around removal, not only of women's rights and ability to choose, but the gains that we have made in supporting rights of people who are diverse, people who are gay, transgenders, transgendered, still haven't made enough gains regarding people of color. And my concern that the Justice Department has become politicized, and I somehow want to see how we can shift the action away from we just have to get enough Democrats in each local community, but there's some real concern about losing more rights than what has already taken place recently. And that's what I wanted to share.
I moved into the house so I can hear better. I'm Sue, and yesterday I just felt so overwhelmed with where our country is headed. And I feel like it's a spiral down. And it's, to me, is like a vigilante country. And I don't like that. So my focus today is the opposite of that. There's an awful lot of us who are connecting to spirit, to our higher self, to our hearts, and we're holding that space. We're fighting for our rights, which would be the rights for the greater good of all. And the more dangerous our country becomes, the more determined I believe we are becoming. So I believe the truth will prevail and light will prevail. It could get pretty dark in between. And I feel positive for myself and my family and for all of us because of the energy, the space, the consciousness we are holding, and that we are supporting each other and we are teaching each other, and we're going to just keep moving forward. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Denise, and I have been very diligent about watching the hearings that are going on pertaining to the January 6th insurrection. I record it, I go back and look at it, I take notes, but I challenged myself to doing it very differently, to really utilize the tag work as I got information, as I was watching it. For example, I kept getting to, do tag work on the folks that were willing to step up to the plate and represent the truth and speak the truth, even when their lives, their families were being threatened and jeopardized, which was the case over and over for all the witnesses. So it's been very satisfying for me to watch it, but not go down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out and analyze why people in our country, have refused to look at the demise of our democracy and, spend a tremendous amount of my time trying to figure that out and wonder why or how. And I'm not doing that. And that was very deliberate on my part. And it was very rewarding and very hopeful for me to approach watching the hearings from that angle and truly doing the tag work and applying it. And it makes me I have felt hopeful. And I do feel we're going to come out of this. The pendulum is swinging, and it seems like, starting especially with the pandemic, the pendulum just keeps going, to these extremes. And there's going to be a balance. And the more I did the work and the more I listened, I just kept appealing to the higher good, rather than buying into, how does that person think like this? How did they get so off the trail of truth and goodness and the possibility that there can be peace, truly peace in this world? So that's been a very very rewarding, very interesting, and very, very good experience. So that helps me to know with this tag work, you know, that with my passion and my brain overworking, and yet doing this work, no matter what's going on in this world, as bad as things appear, that I have choices. And I thank you, Sharon, with this work, because I feel like I've stepped over the line and into, wow, you know, we really are empowered. I really am empowered to manifest. And this can be changed. And we have tools to do it. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for a community of people and for Sharon, you know, for people having this community and creating it and stepping out. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Denise. Anyone else?
I just want to say, Sharon, that I'm going to try to get my AirPods in. So, because my husband is now trying to listen to some. And I just want to know that if I did go out and get these connected, I might lose my connection. Will you be able to sign me back in?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I was going to start with doing a personal session with a client, so you can kind of walk through that, an actual session. I'm not going to start with that. I am going to start with what's on the table because it's heavy. What's on the table is heavy. So let's go back to in the galactic history. You know, the tag is a galactic system of healing, transformation, and education. It's a galactic system. The galactic system begins when we were in home, before we were even individualized as a divine family group. And in that space, all that existed was all aspects of good, all aspects of energy, all aspects of intelligence. It was balanced, it was harmonious. That's our nature. Then each of us coalesced around a specific agenda, whether that was an agenda of inner knowing, an agenda of peace, an agenda of clear thinking, curiosity. We all aligned to an agenda, and that agenda was also totally reflected and a resonance with our divine home, with Source. That's who we are. That's who we are, have lineages from as a soul. We are star beings from star families with agendas of good, who got deceived, invaded, overrun, pretty soon owned by outsiders, families who aligned themselves to agendas of domination and usury of some kind, damaging, who cares, parasitic by nature. And we went into a spin because of their presence. Our vibration was diminishing. We kept trying different ways to get rid of them. We couldn't just say we've had enough, go. They owned us. And we tried many, many ways. And we had a lot of traumatic injuries in our group mind in those worlds. And those ownerships are gone in those worlds. Those outsiders are gone in those worlds. But nevertheless, there came a point in the seventh world as our energy was diminishing, that seventh world, it's like, whoa, we're going off the cliff. We're going off the cliff. Came up with the Earth mission possibility, where we would be in a space where we could make quick choices, individualized. Ask and you will receive. We needed to make a quick declaration. we had to have a way to make their energy vibrations visible. They were so sneaky, they would slide in and out and pretend to be something they weren't. So a world in which energy would slow down enough for us to see, sense, taste, feel, intuit their presence. So that as soon as their presence was discerned, we could say, I know who you are, and have the power to have their energy removed. And that brings us to the female bodysuit, which had no ownership marks 600,000 years ago, 600,000 years ago, when we came first onto the planet with that mission. The female bodysuit was not owned or even known about by the outsiders, so that we could connect to the earth. We could work in those denser energies. We could work to design culture. We could work to put together projects, to put together policy. Why? In order to sustain the mission for us, to create thriving communities, thriving villages, respectful villages, everyone doing their part. And the women, the souls in female bodysuits, were the ones who did that. And we did. So that we knew what good, energy of good, benefit, value, peace, tasted like. Because we designed it, we'd called it forth, and as it began to manifest, we could taste the fruit of it. We knew the taste of good. And we were also very sensitive. Our bodysuit was made very sensitive so that we could discern frequencies coming toward us and do the next phase of our mission was to discern and remove. But we first knew good. That is part of your genetic lineage. Know good. You know what it's like. Therefore, you know when it's not that. So, of course, as soon as the outsiders discovered in one of the villages that there was a bodysuit on the planet who had the authority to remove them, as soon as they knew about that female body and the fact they had no power over her, they came right down at gods of Adam and said, no, we're stopping this right now. And in one village where the woman didn't step up, the women didn't step up, thought they'll just go along to get along for a bit till they got stronger. The outsiders crippled the energetic wiring of the bodysuits. First the male bodysuit, and then through the male, crippled the female bodysuit because they owned the male. So from very early on, like 300,000 years ago, the female bodysuit has been a target of outsider energy. Why? Because it allows them to stay. There's nobody that can stand up and say, I know who you are, put in that sword of Sophia, call all the teams in heaven and say, take this energy back to its home. It cannot stay here. So from 300,000 years ago until 2020, 2021, 2020, 2001, 2002, 2003, that ownership was artificially created. It wasn't part of the natural body. That was the male had the ownership programs. So the outsiders had to use the male body in order to keep injuring the female body, so it was vulnerable, so there could be devices placed so that it could be mind controlled. And so we've been on this mission for a very short time, the actual mission of females stepping in, souls in female bodysuits, stepping into their power center of Sophia. Because if you don't have that, You get angry, you get frustrated, and then you cripple yourself, you fawn, and you lose your oomph. The difference in this day and time compared to the 60s, the 70s, the 80s is that we have, through this group for sure, been reclaiming, calling in the Sophia activation of the solar plexus. The power to say, whoa, that feels off, just at a breeze. One of the mothers in Uvalde, that her daughter was killed in Uvalde, in the letter she wrote, said, remember your Nana said, pay attention to the whispers so you don't have to live through the storms. So the senses, being as sensitive as we can be to call in who? Elected officials? Nah. Our friends and family? Nah. Our initial place is to say, I know who you are. I know this vibration is contrary to good. I know this is contrary to benefit. That's all you have to know. This feels off. This feels off. I call in all the powers of heaven, and we use the PTO. We use the Galactic Collective Council, who has decreed the end of no more agendas can even be created in those galactic worlds. It can't even be begun anymore. So we're cleaning up the last residue of outsiders. That's what we've been doing in TAG actively since 2000. And we're only in 2022. So here we have what looks to be like, well, it doesn't look to be. There's a lot out there in the world, in our personal lives and in the world, that looks like the swamp's going to get us. It's going to get our families. It's going to get everything. So, of course, we here want to know what's going on. How effective have we been? What is left to be done? So I won't go into details of the last couple of weeks, but it certainly led me to say how many outsiders are still within the earth and world of earth. That is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, that whole 8 dimensions. How many outsiders with those kind of agendas are still here? And they said there's 6% left. 6% left. Now let me tell you the story. Here's a piece of land, and somebody wants to build on that piece of land. It's beautiful. And they come in and say, this is going to be my piece of land. Well, I've got a plan for that piece of land, and if you're an outsider, you're going to use that land to create something that is going to trap so that you can feed off of what's trapped. You're going to create a parasitic model. You're going to create a parasitic organization and building because you're an outsider. So it begins with the agenda they chose. The outsiders that were here on the planet doesn't mean they're all embodied, because most of them were not embodied. They were manipulating. But nevertheless, now they're going to use the law of ask and receive, and they're going to bring forth their architect to create the blueprint for this complex they're going to put on this land. And that whole building complex has an agenda to trap in any way. It might be through violence, it might be through trickery, it might be through entrapment, it might be just whatever. This is going to be a plot of land. And so the architect designs the buildings with that in mind.
Hey, Sharon,
Yes, Denise? Oh, yes, Denise?
yeah, something went off and there's interference and I can barely hear you.
Is that
Did
right?
something?
Well, okay, what I'm going to do.
Yeah, it's echoing.
Yeah, your voice really changed.
Yeah, the echoing. I knew what that was about. Let me do this because I might not. Is that better?
Yes,
Yes,
much better.
Okay.
Can you go back to the beginning of the plot of land?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Deborah. So this outsider comes in. Here's a beautiful plot of land, and the outsider wants to build something on that plot of land, and it's going to be according to their agenda. It's going to be something that will entrap, that will have a way to take some of the energy to their place. It's totally created for outsider agenda. And the blueprint is drawn up for that with all of the nooks and crannies and policies and to make it happen. And the building then, that building began to be built 300,000 years ago. And it included entrapment and destruction of the female body, not the elimination, because we had to have babies in order to have slaves, just the entrapment, so that the woman had no power. You couldn't let this soul in a female body be on her mission. You'd be gone. So it included that. It included voyeurism. It including use of babies and children and trickery, blood sacrifice. It included all of that, all in order to use the energy of our divine families, who are magnificent. The building was built. It was inhabited over and over and over again. Can you imagine how many pieces of wallpaper do you think it would have to be to get back to the bare walls? And what kind of furniture is stuck away in the attic or in the basement? And how many cobwebs and spider webs and hiding nooks in that building? And it's very alive and active because the outsiders move it in and out, move in and out, move in and out, and energize it. And in everything they do, there is crippling within the psyche of humanity. There's damage done in our neurological system. There's damage done in our brain. There's damage that we carry within our bodysuits because we need to keep that trauma away from our heart. And then, lo and behold, there comes a time when the outsider energy, is removed totally from the building, totally from the building. And then what is left behind is the building, the crap, the spider webs, the energy songs that were sung there, as well as in the psyche of humanity. How crippled is that? How crippled has that become within our genetic lines? That now we are seeing. And the outsiders, they had as an intrinsic part of their being here was a very, very strong hiding energy, hidden energy, a shield so they wouldn't be seen energy. So here we are at this moment in time, and this is what I was shown, that here we are at this moment of time when it looks worse than it's ever been in our lifetime. It looks that way, but it's not because of the majority, because it's so impacted with outsiders. It's because the outsiders are mostly gone, along with their invisibility, along with their shield, along with their, so that what we are seeing is what has been left behind. We could call it entropy. You know, entropy is when you put gas in your car and the exhaust out the back is the entropy. So we are seeing the entropy, and we are seeing it more clearly because the invisibility shield is gone. That's theirs. That wasn't. It's the lackeys that are left. It's the lackeys that are left that are still thinking they're part of the network. And then a lot of energy. So I said, and as you know, I was told to just, kind of be available to do work with those in the unseen for the next couple of months. So, that being drawn into us, into that wave of energy with the ancient ones and the team saying, okay, this is what you're dealing with now, and so you need. PTO goes after the outsiders, and they're almost gone. The outsiders are almost gone. So it's not it's not that the PTO team is completed. It's not, but there was a new project that had to come on board, and that's what I wanted to tell you about. There's a new project on board to deal with all of the entropy and the restoration of the neurological system, and the requirements for the brain to be made aware of things differently, to clear out hidden energies of all different kinds, the residue from and the damage from the outsiders. And I'm just calling it the Golden Song. Golden was the name, and it felt to me like the harmony. I wanted, it's a vibration. And they said, recognize, I couldn't sleep last night, and that doesn't happen too often anymore, but periodically it still does. And I couldn't sleep anymore. So, get up, take a bathroom break, look at my cell phone and see what time is it. And they said, what have you got in your hand? Ah, a cell phone. Oh, a cell phone. A lot of people are afraid of cell phones. Yes, they are. But they are receivers and broadcasters, aren't they? And I said, they are. And that's where the Golden Project began. How many people are carrying cell phones? How many people sit in front of their computer? How many, the receivers in this world, and I'm just, in the modern world, is the technological stuff. They are receivers. If there's no station broadcasting, that television blank. Doesn't self-generate. It's a receiver. And then, of course, I was reminded how after 9/11, we started broadcasting through everything. We've started broadcasting through those high wires that everybody wants to not live under. Broadcasting there, broadcasting into the crystalline kingdom. So they said anything in this world that is a receiver, start broadcasting the Golden Song. And I said, well, water. They said, absolutely. And boy, I get a hit on that. Many in our circle have been feeling water for probably a month or two, right? It's a receiver. That's why it does what, Professor Emoto saw. It wasn't a discovery of something new. It is a characteristic within water. It will hold a frequency and broadcast a frequency. Clear quartz crystals will absorb a frequency and then broadcast that frequency. The crystalline kingdom, singing the songs into the trees, singing the songs into the mountains, singing the songs into the water, putting the frequencies into fire to let it burn. Start really focusing on the elimination of all that has been left behind in the way of damage, deception, anything there's a residue from parasitic outsiders' presence on the planet. You know, and I go back to I mean, we've done this, and we've applied it in a lot of different places, and every time it's worked. So I'm going to go back again to Michelle with her heart, and absolutely, the medical said she's dying. She was told six times within 4 years that she had anywhere from 2 weeks to maybe a month, possibly 2 years, to live. There was no hesitation. All her numbers said she is dying. And I had in place the program, the end result. And Sharon alluded to this, feeling good, that good feeling. The end result is who we are. It's not made up. It's who we are. Our end result is divine family agenda, divine family choice, divine family frequencies. That's our choice. Right now, the word for me is brilliance, brilliance and invitation. Holding that as the outcome. And the difference within the tag work and understanding is that, because that's not new. People are out there holding love and sending love, and that's our divine family. That's our nature, and that's being done. The uniqueness about what we know within the tag galactic system is that there are vibrations that exist and have existed that had they inserted themselves, but once they were here, their agenda was not out of sync with us. It was not an out of sync. It was not an imbalance. We couldn't love them back to wholeness. It was they were what they were. They were parasitic. And love does not change who they are. When they chose to be parasitic, they chose to be parasitic. We've been calling completion of that, end the journey, enough of that. We don't need it here, but we have to understand that the vibrations from those agendas have to be treated differently, and that is with PTO, Deep Six, Golden Song, anything like that. But Golden Song is what we're using in addition, because we're going after what has been left behind, to break down, to pull down that building, to clear the space, to grow the flowers again, and then it can be used for divine family agenda. That's our plan. That's plan A. What it looks like out there is like we're walking off a cliff. It looks like humanity might as well give up and let's just pull the plug and go home. That's not what we came here to do. We came here for this very purpose. And finally, after all these years, we have the wherewithal, the authority restored to do what we had intended to do. And there's been a great amount of damage done to our mission force between 300,000 years ago and now. Let's condense it, stack it, make it past and present all in this moment of time, collapse and bring in the Golden Song for that entire, we would say, the Akashic records to be brought into alignment, so that the dust and the mold and the cobwebs and the deep combobulation can be quickly brought into focus, so that it looks like we're going off the cliff, and indeed we are flying. We don't even know we have wings. Our plan A. So at this point, I haven't, made a PDF of written all of, those different things that they identified. But I'm going to get that out to you this next week. And there might be some other wording, like there was I think it was Audrey, in as she was doing, I think that something in the tag sessions, and she felt like there was a word that she was told to impact the plasma, which I've never thought of plasma. I don't know where that fits, but I said we ought to include the plasma, and they said yes, put it in there. So what I will do is get you kind of the bare bones of Golden Song. Let you try it on, let you work with it, see what there might be. Let's add this to it, and we will refine it. I mean, that's been the name of the game ever since I started teaching tag one last year. There was, here's a new piece, here's a new piece, here's a new piece. So this is the latest new piece, and she who is the master of energy determines the end result. I'm flying off the cliff with brilliance and invitation, because that's our nature. We know it. It can guide us. So that's that piece of it. So I want to just give you let's do this. Just take a couple minutes, anything that comes up for you, then we're going to take a 5-minute break. Then I'm going to go ahead with this client. So popcorn.
I appreciate the perspective, Sharon, and especially that statistic of 6% of the parasitic energy remains to be cleared. And I absolutely agree. It was good to hear how you worded the idea that that we're not jumping off a cliff, and so those of us who can really hold the space for reclaiming goodness across the planet have power. Like, just claim our power and make that our focus. And thank you. As Denise said in the beginning, it continues to be an empowering practice, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
What I want to also point out is the fact there is so much visibility is an indication of healing. It is not an indication of worsening. Because if we were worsening, all this stuff would still be hidden, and we wouldn't even know why we were going down the tubes. When things are hidden, there's no way to deal with it. So having it come up and be in your face, and here it is, now we can bring processes to it. So this is an indication we are healing. Healing is taking place, and we are totally committed to Plan A, the restoration of our divine family's agenda on this planet. That's the song. Okay.
I really like, Sharon, how you gave me a reframing, which just helps me. I feel like I sink into this new reality and the potential, and really getting that this is, who we are. We really are empowered. And the way you worded that and the way you spoke about it, I feel like I just really got it. And I think about how, denial is similar to the hidden agenda, the hiddenness. And when you're in denial, you can never heal, for instance, addictions and that whole arena. And now the visibility is making this choice to be empowered and choose to create. It just makes it so much easier. And that was a reframing for me. And I asked for passionate motivation, and I feel very passionately motivated right now. So thank you.
Good, Denise. With Golden Song, my suggestion is that you gather time, space, realities, dimensions, lifetimes, just just bring them all into this present moment, right here, right now. Just, as much of that you feel you can hold space for, and let that, and activate that golden song harmonic, and let the vibration do its thing. See it as a vacuum, if you will, all within, the cosmic composting system says all the energy stays within the system for composting, healing, transformation, removal, whatever. And so we're not spreading it out there in the world. That it's contained in the cosmic composting system. But you're singing an entirely new song with all these frequencies of what I have written in my notebook, but don't have written on paper yet. I know I'm going to do a galactic glyph on it like I did for broadcasting. We have been doing our broadcasting circles for several months, and but I know there's a galactic glyph for it too that you can use. So we'll get that put out to you. So